Hi everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. You guys can go ahead get food throughout the event, but today we're here to talk about taxes. So my name is Lindsay Bertram. I'm the Financial Wellness Program Manager in Student Registration Financial Services. Many of you may know me because I was a Penn student. I graduated a year ago. But today, Financial Wellness at Penn has partnered with the tax office to teach you about taxes and what you should know. I'm going to do a brief introduction of Financial Wellness at Penn, and then I'm going to have the lovely staff introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right into Taxes 101. So Financial Wellness at Penn is a new initiative in student registration financial services. Our mission is on the board, and there's a link to our website as well. If you haven't yet interacted with us, I would highly recommend you do it. Our goal really is just to help Penn students feel more secure about their personal finances and help them learn how to make decisions regarding personal finance. If you're interested in getting involved, you can talk to me after this presentation or look through our website for more opportunities to get involved. I'm going to have the staff introduce themselves.
Do them first.
You guys want to go ahead?
Sure. Hi, I'm Paul Richards. I'm the Director of Communications in the Division of Finance. I don't think you're going to hear me say anything today. If I'm talking, it'll be a surprise for all. Thanks for coming.
I'm John Rudolph, Manager of the Student Employment Office.
Eric Hanson, Court Vice President for Finance.
Karen Kay, Tax Attorney with the Office of General Counsel. I'm Beth Null, Director of Corporate Tax Compliance and Payroll.
And I am Mary Ann Piccolo. I am the Associate Controller for Corporate Tax and Compliance and Payroll. And I'm so glad you are all here to hear about this exciting topic of taxes. You're taking time away from Fat Tuesday to eat donuts and beignets, so thank you for coming. So we'll get started. I'm going to encourage you to ask questions as we go along. You can interrupt me, but I will tell you, and you can read this, I'm not going to read it, you can read this disclaimer. I cannot give you personal tax advice. I can steer you in the right direction. We can give you guidance, and that's what today's about, is giving you, I didn't even turn this on, can you hear me? It's giving you an overview of taxes on what you can expect as a student or what you do expect as a student. And we'll go through some of the organizations that you can go out to at the end to get some additional help. But the disclaimer is so that you understand that we cannot give you specific personal advice. So if you ask the questions, I'll tell you I can't answer you and give you why. Give you the reason why. I don't have a clicker that works. So today we're going to understand how tax withholding works. We're going to look at some of the tax forms that you may get as a student here at Penn. And we're going to try to help you understand how to read your W-2 and how all the boxes are calculated. So aren't you excited? So I think some of you have heard this quote before, there's nothing certain except death and taxes. I hope you don't run out of here thinking taxes is lower than death. So, but we'll get you through that process. So hopefully it won't be as bad as all that. So I guess one of the questions that has come up a lot, and Paul has said he's heard from students around campus, is, do I need to file tax return? And that is, again, a personal tax question, but there's resources for you to find out whether or not you're one of those people. There's a tool from the website, and I believe, Paul, we are posting this presentation so you can click on and get to it from here. But there's a website that you can go on to, and there's a tool within the IRS that you go in and ask you a bunch of questions. And if you answer them honestly and truthfully, it'll get you to whether or not you should file your taxes. So make sure when you're looking at the questions and you're answering them, that you're answering them in accordance to how your personal tax process should be working. For non-resident aliens, there's also a website that you can go to. And we do have, there's members of my team that do regular and ongoing tax seminars with ISSS and Global Support directly for NRA, non-resident alien students, so that it's more specific to the foreign nationals. So you can look at that. So, okay, let me go on from here. So some of the categories of payments that you might get as a student, and some of you might see some of them, some of you might see all of them, lucky you, and some of them you may not even see, but it's good for us to kind of go through and see what are the type of things that you can get income on and what you'll be taxed on as well, and the type of tax that you'll have to be, or type of form that you'll get, and what you need to report from a tax perspective. So your compensation obviously is for performance of actual services under an employer. So if you're a work-study student at Penn, if you're a worker at Penn, as an employee at Penn, I get a salary, could be higher. I get a salary at Penn, and most of it goes to the government. But anyway, the salary's broken down. You could get within that salary, you include your student employment, your a work study, and we'll show you on your pay slip what it'll look like and how it's broken down as well. Scholarships and fellowships, some of you may get those as well. A scholarship is really for an undergrad. Help to defer some of your expenses, and those and fellowships as well. But fellowships are essentially the same thing as a scholarship for a graduate student. They both basically mean the same thing. What you'll get when you get a scholarship, you should be getting a 1098-T from your organization, from the University of Penn, as a student, whether you get a scholarship or not. And in that, on a 1098-T, we are required to report what you have paid or what has been paid on your behalf for tuition, fees, etc. When you get that form, it's your obligation to look at it and see within those dollars what's considered qualified expenses and what's considered non-qualified. So non-qualified expenses are your tuition, your fees, your books. The qualified expenses are your tuition, your fees, your books. So you're not taxed on those items. And it's the fees that are associated with your course of study. So if within your course of study, they're the same fees as everybody else within that course of study, that is non-taxable. The non-qualified expenses are items that are more attuned to like living expenses. So it's housing, room and board, could be any type of living expenses that you're getting. Medical expenses associated with being a student, but those are considered taxable. So when you get your 1098-T, you would talk to your tax advisor, and you'd have to sit down with them and say, how did this money get distributed? Prizes and awards. Some of you may be getting prizes and awards throughout the course of the year. I think there's a couple times a year that they're done regularly throughout the university, usually at the end of the calendar year and at the end of the academic year. And then there's other prizes. Some of you may have heard of the PIP and the PEP, the President's Engagement Prize and the President's Innovation Prize. That's all part of that. That's set up a little bit differently. I won't get into that today. But it's kind of along the same thing. It's a prize or an award, and it's reported as miscellaneous income on 1099. Different than compensation, because you don't have to pay FICA or Medicare on that. It's just federal income. Sure.
On a different type of prize. The prizes you get from your parents, aka gifts, those are not taxable. I know some folks worry about that. If somebody gives me a gift, is it taxable? It's never taxable to the recipient. Over a certain amount, it might be taxable to the donor or the giver.
$13,000.
But 50, I think now it's like
May have been 2020.
Close. So at any rate, that kind of prize is not taxable, not considered compensation.
If you'd like to give me a prize, I'll take it. Especially if it's not taxable. So, okay. Anything else? We're good? Okay. Good.
Summer internship.
So that's basically a compensation. So summer, good point. Thank you, Paul, for bringing it up. What the hell's wrong with my mouth? Ding, one word. I was told I get 5 swear words. I have a really bad mouth. So I do taxes. What do you think? what am I talking about? Paul. Oh, internships, student internships. As an intern, as a student intern in the summer, when you're enrolled, you don't pay FICA tax. When you're enrolled in a course of study. In summer, when you take an internship, you're taxed like any other employee. So it's FICA, it's Medicare, it's SUI, it's all that stuff. Yeah, we're gonna get to that, but okay. Don't ruin my thunder, please. It's my boss. I'm screwed. So, is that we're okay for now?
So,
Okay.
or if the university gives you like $4,000 for an unpaid internship.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
reported on a 1099, right?
So it's their externship. So basically, whenever anybody uses the word stipend, I think wages until you tell me otherwise. So stipend to me is a form of payment. You have to tell me, or the department of school or center has to tell me, what are you getting paid to do? If you're getting paid to provide a service, it's a service, it's compensation. If you're getting paid because we're paying a living expense, it's a living expense and there's imputed income associated with that. So because it's taxable to you, unless it's reported on your 1098-T, and at that point, you'd have to pay for it yourself. So some of the externship money that you get, it depends upon who's instituting it, and if it's done through the university or through an external party. And again, you should be getting a W-2 for that externship, unless we're paying you for like the stipend, and it may not be a W-2, maybe 1099able, depending upon how it's set up. You had a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say if the general rule of thumb is that like you declare it if you get a document or not necessarily.
If you what?
If you have to get a document in the mail, so like you're saying, or like retrieve it online, like a 1098 or a W-2, or like if you get a scholarship and like it's like a check or something, like how do you go about declaring that, or like you don't have to?
So if you have a scholarship and you're using that scholarship to pay Penn, then it'll show up on your 1098-T. You should, if it's an outside scholarship, if the money's coming directly here. If it's going directly to you, you may get a form from the institution, but you have to look at it because it depends upon if you get an offer, if you get a letter, it should really come into the university.
Okay.
So if it's something like a grant for research expenses, would that count as income per se? I mean, is it taxable?
Grant expenses that's going through the university, through our Office of Research Services, and it's offsetting expenses. Depends upon the grant itself and the type of expenses, whether or not it's going to be taxable to you. If the expenses are related to compensation, because you are required to perform a service, then regardless if it comes in on the grant, it will be on your W-2. If it's covering your compensation.
If you're receiving the grant directly, then it's 1099.
Right. If you're getting it from an outside organization, the organization will give you should be giving you a 1099.
If it's from Penn and it's under $600 and it's not for compensation.
So that's a miscellaneous income that's going through, I think we have that on there, some of the other items for 1099. If it's under $600, you don't get a form from us, but it is still your responsibility to count that as income. Whether or not you do, I don't know.
The second part of that question, if it's not for compensation, if it's for things like beakers and test tubes, whatever, I don't think that would qualify as compensation.
Correct. The expenses related to research, right. But if it's going to, as Beth said, if it's going to you and it's for expenses, you may be getting a tax form from an outside agency that you're going to have to sit down with a tax accountant to determine how do you report it. And again, you'd probably have to distinguish between what did I use it for? Did I use it for my personal use? Did I use it for expenses? How is that going to be set up? And it depends upon the grant.
How do you know if you have to file a tax return? Because I've heard like if you work a summer internship and you earn like a certain salary every month, like you are taxed at like an annual level is what I've heard, but you're not taxed just because you work like 3 months. So like how do you know whether to file?
So the first slide,
Sure.
when we talk about whether or not you have to file a tax return, you should look at the end of the year when you get all your documents, you should go in, if you don't know, you should go in and look to see if you've gotten a tax document, 2 to 1 you're going to have to file. But you should always look to see if you fall within a certain threshold, or if you have exemptions and you have personal other things going on that will cause you not to file a tax return. But again, you have to determine that based upon the set of questions that the IRS presents to you, and you have to answer them truthfully and honestly to see if you have to file.
Wait, in that situation, it's a hypothetical, but if let's say taxes are taken out and
Absolutely.
you want it
Right,
back,
right,
you might get that
right.
money back.
Yeah, if you're getting a W-2, and taxes have been deducted, if you want to reclaim any of that money, if you think you can, again, you can look at here, but if you think you can reclaim it, you still, if you're getting a W-2, you should be filing a tax return.
Yeah, because if it's a 3-month thing, I would think you're going to
Depend- yeah.
get the money back if you buy it.
Right. If that's all you've gotten. But again, that's one piece of your income. This is why we don't do like personal taxes. I don't know if you have a trust fund and you get money out of the trust fund, if you have alimony, okay. I'm just saying, there's things that about you personally that we don't know, and we're not going to be able to tell you whether or not to file. In that case, for the most part, if you're getting money for compensation for services, then you should probably file a tax return so that you can reclaim some of those funds.
So do you file this in April then? Like,
Yes,
April,
before
is there
April.
a
Try to do it before April. If you wait till April 15th and your computer blows up, you could be in big
So
trouble.
before April.
Yeah, right.
If you get
Has
an
to be
automatic extension, then I didn't say that.
But you pay for taxes up ahead
You
of
too,
time.
you
Yeah,
too.
so, okay.
I'm
All right, now we're getting confusing.
Okay.
All right, so okay, sorry, go ahead.
Should I already received like a 1098-T form?
Yes, you should have.
What if I didn't receive it already then?
You should call, and I don't, SRFS, and there's a company, we have an outside company that actually completes the 1098Ts and files them and sends them out to you directly. You should also look to make sure, and every year you should do this, you should look to make sure on your documentation that you have here at Penn, whether it's your student financial services, if it's Workday for payroll, Penn Community, that you have the right address. So if you're moving every year to another, location, whether it's another dorm or you're moving back home, you want your permanent address to be your parents' home, and send it to it. Please update it, because I cannot tell you how many forms we get back from the U.S. Post Office. Boxes. So, and the other thing that you should also do, and I'll say it now so I don't forget to say it later, you should all go in and opt out of getting a printed W-2 sent to you if you're on Workday, for 2 reasons. One is you might not get it if you don't have the right address in there. The other reason is it's easier to download into a tax application. And the other reason is it's safer from a privacy standpoint. Nobody's looking through the mail to pull out your social security number. So I would strongly suggest that you go in and opt out of printing. Okay? You can't opt out of printing 1098T, sorry. But you'll get those. Or 1099. Okay?
So if in theory, like you got the tax forms to your house, but you threw them out or misplaced them, what do you do then?
You can go on Workday and pull it down.
But what if it's not from Penn, it's from an external employer?
Then you either they're going to have another mechanism for you to get it electronically, or you have to call them and request another copy. So if you're still waiting for the 1098T, it's the end. Where was this? February. End of February. You should have gotten it already. Most of the tax forms have to be out by the end of January. I'm not sure about the 1098T, the actual date, but the W-2s have to be mailed, postmarked, or available by January 31st. 1042S for non-resident aliens do not have to be out until March 15th, which really kind of throws a wrench into the whole thing because you've only got a month if you're waiting for a 1042S. But we do try to get it out at the beginning of March so that you get it beforehand. It's usually available for you.
Kind of related, but my dad's asking me for a 1095 to eat. After that.
For health?
Yeah.
No, you won't get it. You don't need it. It's a personal tax advice. No, you don't. You really don't need it. Yeah. So, I'll continue going through kind of the type of payments. Okay. Anything else? Some of the questions will probably, re-spark when we go through some of the other information as well. So, travel reimbursements. If you are an employee of Penn in whatever capacity, as a student worker, me as an employee, if you're required to travel for your business, or you may be asked to present a paper by your faculty member or whoever it is, that travel is considered under an accountable plan, and you can look it up to kind of see what it's all about. But essentially what that means is that those expenses are covered by your employer, up to certain limitations, given certain policies, all of that. If you're traveling on your own, you're doing a dissertation, you're doing your own research, you have to go home because, somebody in your family, God forbid, is sick, you want to go home, whatever. If anybody pays that on your behalf from Penn, that's taxable to you. So you will end up getting a 1099 for any of those type of payments. If something is paid to a third-party provider on your behalf and it's taxable, we're going to know about it, and then it'll show up on the 1099 that you've been, actually from a W-2 perspective, you've been imputed income, and we'll talk about that a little bit more after.
And we should know behind all this, it's maybe but these aren't Penn's rules. This is the federal government rules. So we're saying, oh, you do that and it's taxable, but we're just complying with the federal government.
Yeah, and I should have said that at the beginning. We are basically, as in the employer, we're an agent of the government. We're an agent for the state. We're the agent for the IRS, and we're taking your taxes to pay them on your behalf, not to pay us, to pay them on your behalf, so that you're not penalized, that you can capture for FICA and Medicare somewhere in the future, so that you understand that we're not doing this to make your life miserable. I'm not doing it.
Somebody else is doing it.
The IRS is doing it to make your life miserable. So an honoraria. Does anybody know what an honoraria is? Good, that means none of you got one. Faculty, staff, and students are not allowed, they're prohibited from getting an honoraria. An honoraria is really a gift that we give as an institution to somebody that comes in and provides a specialized type of service. So it might be like a speaker that comes in and presents on a topic for a particular class, or it could be an author of a book that we just want them to come in and speak to the general community. It usually is accompanied by advertising and marketing that this person is coming in. And what we do is we say, hey, come in and do this for us, and there's a gift for you at the end of it. That gift could be $1,000. It's supposed to be to cover their travel expenses in addition to coming in and presenting. It's not a fee for service. If somebody was to say, like if Mary Frances was invited to an institution and they said, I want to give you $1,000, and she says, well, I'm worth $10,000. And then you're getting into negotiation, and that's fee for service, and then that's compensation. That, in addition, the honoraria is still taxable. It's taxable on a 1099, and it's taxable as a service. So that and an independent contractor payment. Anybody know about the independent contractors? Again, service providers. They get a 1099, but we are required to withhold the state income tax if they are not a resident of Pennsylvania. And there's other states that we're required to withhold, like California, we have to withhold 7%. Pennsylvania is 3.07% for the state taxes. So, so if anybody tells you they're giving an honor area, say no, Marianne will hunt me down, and I will hunt you down. So human subject payments, anybody knows what that is? There's clinical trials, you want to be part of it. I failed the obesity one, so I didn't get paid, but anyway, so the clinical trials, you can come in, you could be, a human subject. It kind of feels bad when they say it that way, human subject. Then you go in and you might be tested because you're going for a sleep study or whatever it is. It's all, it definitely is all confidential. And you get a fee or something for it. Some of it's just maybe $10 to come in and fill out a survey or something like that. Those are basically reportable if it's over $600 on a 1099. You'd be very surprised that we have, they're not students, but there are professional human subjects that go to every clinical trial to get paid for it. If I guess you get a lot of stuff wrong with you, then you can get fixed or whatever. But they get paid a lot, and they're getting a 1099 at the end of the year. An independent contractor. This is another one where a student cannot be an independent contractor. Yes, you had a question.
Yeah. So if you've been doing all of these things previously, or have had example scholarships or the different things in previous years, would it be advisable to file them?
In previous years, you didn't file them? Whoopsie. Well, I would actually talk to a tax accountant about the best way to handle it. But again, you might even want to go on the IRS website and say, did I have to for this stuff that I had before? And then if the answer is no, then rest assured nobody will find you. But, but some of this information, like the 1099s and the W-2s and some of the other documents, they go to the IRS. They go to state agencies. And they, at some point, compare, and they look. So if you're one of those people that didn't file a tax return for 5 years, but they got a 1099 or a W-2 for you, they'll find you eventually, and you'll get a notice from the IRS. And there's something that I want to tell you now so I don't forget while we're bringing up the whole IRS. The IRS will never call you to say, yo, you owe money. Press this number and give me your social security number. They will never call you. You will get a certified letter either at your home, your parents' home, and then there will be a number on there that you call when you establish a relationship for your audit or whatever it is. Then they will call you. But they will never, ever call you. The other thing that's going on now, and I got, swear to you, 13 calls in one day. Different phone numbers come in. I don't know what they are. I just ignore them. Saying that my social security number is being, what's the verbiage that they use? My social security number is being deleted because of, go ahead, babe, because that means I don't have to file anything. But, yeah, I don't think so. And, if you're like me, I love to play with them on the phone. But anyway, so, but they'll never call you. If any of these agencies call you, and I remember last year we had a couple of non-resident alien students that got phone calls that basically said, you're going to be deported because you didn't pay taxes correctly. And coming to the office and crying and, please don't worry about it. You're not going to be deported. You're not going to be in jail. We had U.S. citizens saying that they're going to go to jail. We've had very smart people get emails that said, hey, if you don't answer this information, we're going to come after you. You're going to be arrested. Don't answer an email. Just don't answer it. If you think it's spam, it probably is. But if you question it, call one of the offices. Call the tax office if it's tax related. Call compensation HR if you think it came from HR. Definitely call public safety if you think you're being scammed by some other area. It's rampant. It's just all over the place.
Sometimes you make a mistake. Like one time I did my taxes and I keep the number. I flipped it. And it was like in like one of the bigger categories. And I just got a letter that said, oh, your W-2 said this and your tax form said that. And I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, I flipped the number. It wasn't a big deal. You did, like my mother gets all upset. Oh my God. It's okay.
Yeah.
You'll just get a letter and they'll say, we calculated it this. And you're like, oh God.
Okay, I'll fix it and I'll send the money right away.
No problem, you know, whatever. But yeah, so I think that's important because nobody's going to come and harass anyone.
Mm-hmm. So just something to keep in mind. Spread that word around to your friends if they come and say, hey, I got a call from the IRS and I had to give them my social security number. Tell them to go lock down every account they've ever had in their entire life. So an independent contractor is an individual that performs a service on behalf of Penn that is not considered an employee. So that person is someone that holds themselves out to have some kind of specialized talent or need that we have that comes into the university, performs a service under a contract, under the purchase order, under agreement, one time for a limited time, and we pay them and we 1099 them. So the 1099 covers whatever the service related is, and if part of the contract or the agreement is that they that we're going to pay for their travel, that's also taxable to an independent contractor. So an independent contractor is someone that should know that they need a business license to work in the city of Philadelphia, that they need licensing if they're providing some kind of specialized service, especially if it's clinical in nature and those type of things. They shouldn't be somebody that, and we hear it a lot, it doesn't affect you guys, but we hear it a lot that we have somebody that retires on Friday and then was rehired on Monday as an independent contractor. That can't happen. The IRS looks at the independent contractor relationship and they're becoming very, very aggressive, both in the IRS and the different states. Because from an independent contractor perspective, if you're looking at an individual that should be an employee, that individual should get benefits and be paid a certain wage for a certain type of job that they're doing. So there's a lot of idiosyncrasies to independent contractor. So any questions on the categories of payment? Anything that you're getting up here that you're getting that's not up here that you want to talk about? Wow, what are you getting?
No, I was just thinking from a student's perspective, rather than, correct me if I'm wrong, but rather than worrying like, oh my gosh, did I remember all this? Somebody should be sending these to you. You don't need to call us and say, oh, I need this form, I need that.
But you should know what to expect.
Yeah.
So if you're waiting for your 1090-18 and you didn't get it, call. If you're waiting for 1099 and you didn't get it, call. If you haven't seen your W-2, go on Workday, look at it first, or go to whoever your employer was from the service that you perform and get that information. So, so you should know what you're getting, and if you're not, then call and figure that out. But some of these you're not going to have during the course of your time here, and some of them you may. So just be aware of them.
Can I just add, just because you didn't get a form doesn't mean whatever
Right,
you
it's
receive.
not taxable.
You can play bagpipes at a wedding and they love you and give you $10,000 in cash for your wonderful performance. They've had a lot to drink by then. And you're not going to get a 1099 or W-2, but it's cash for your services and it's taxable.
Yes, and as a citizen of the United States or taxpayer, you should be reporting your. I have to say that. You're. Okay, so what do we got? W-4. So the W-4.
Sorry. So I know we talk about externships, but Penn does the junior senior summer funding thing. What form is that going to be on?
Depends upon the summer funding thing.
So you're talking about like if you have an unpaid internship and Penn is giving you money, essentially you're getting a check from Penn to to pay their living expenses during the summer.
I think it's like direct deposit. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right. So it's your probably from the W.
Yeah, but it's more like not necessarily like paying for your wage because you're unpaid. It covers other things.
Yeah.
Right. Too. So like, is that a 1099?
Yes. Yeah.
And just because you're getting a 1099, we say it's tax reportable. Depending on your level of income, taxable. You under certain levels of income,
Might not be.
pay
Right.
tax,
Mhm.
but it's tax reportable.
And you have to look at your state too. So you may look at the IRS site and the IRS says you don't have to pay, but your state may say something different. So you have to be aware of that too. Okay? So the W-4 is the employee's withholding certificate. And essentially everybody who just started in 2020 getting compensation from Penn should have filled out the 2020 form. If you were here in 19 and you had a W-4 filled out, you can keep that form. You don't have to update it, but you probably should at some point. Look at it because it is different. And some of the nuances and the differences on here are that with the Tax Reform Act, okay, I don't want to say too much negative stuff, but about people. Well, I have 4 swear words left. Okay, good. With the Tax Reform Act, they took away the personal exemptions. And if you put in there that you had 2 personal exemptions, it kind of lowers your tax withholding. You have to go and do your tax return at the end of the year to determine whether or not you pay too much or too little. But this year, or actually as of 2018, that went away. And what replaced it is an increase in personal exemptions when you do your tax return, personal deductions, standard deductions on your tax return. So for a single person, I think I have it on another screen, but if a single person for 2019 was $12,400, there's a form. And married, it's pretty much double. If you're married filing jointly, it's pretty much double. So it's important for you to fill this out so that you know how much taxes are taking out. If you don't fill out a W-4 and you're getting paid, we are required to take single zero, which is the highest rate we can take for a single person. And if you're married and you wanted to put married 0, whatever, married head household, there's no 0 anymore. I always say that if you want to put married, it would be could be a lower amount, but it depends, and we'd still put single 0, and you'd have to go in and make the change. Single, no 0. Sorry.
Yeah, so when you fill out this form that it asks you for exemptions, honestly, sometimes I select some, or I'll see it on my statements, but I have no idea what that means.
So there's nothing on this one for exemptions for 2020. 2019 had it. And then there's a work paper that goes with it. And that's one of the things that you might want to do. They have a W-4 calculator on the IRS website that you can go through and kind of see how much you think it's going to come out at the end of the year when you do single, I've been doing this too long, single to determine whether or not the money that you're going to get for all of the things that you're going to get are going to you're going to have enough withheld. So you can go in and play with that. From your standpoint, it's pretty much, I wouldn't worry too much about looking at the tax withholding unless you've got so much income coming in, you want to determine whether or not you're going to pay enough and you're not going to get penalized. So, okay, that's the W-4. Oh, it's 12.2 for single and 24.4 for married filing jointly. Sometimes it's not worth getting married to. Just talking from experience. I guess I talked about most of this. So the new W form repealed the withholding allowances, and there's new withholding tax tables. So it'd be interesting to look for yourselves to see where you fall out. If you're getting 0 to, what is it, 19,000 something, or 900, what is it? I have the pocket guide. If taxable income between 0 and 19,400, you have no tax. It's 10%.
You owe 10% tax.
No, yeah, 0, yeah, 10% on that amount. So then, if you get between 19,401 and 78,975, it's that 10%. So it's 1940 plus an additional 12% for the amount over the prior table dollar, 19,400. That's for 2019. I haven't looked to see if they've changed for 2020, but so you can look at the tax tables to see where you fall from a taxability standpoint.
Is that just federal tax, or does that include state tax and like?
It's just federal tax.
Social Security? Okay.
This is just federal. So I've got another screen that'll show you the Social Security, but this is for the W-4. It's just federal taxes.
If you earn money in a different state and you earn money in 2 states, then do you file 2 state taxes? How does that work?
You could, yes.
So
It depends upon the states.
do you do that before April 14th?
Yes. State and federal are all due and payable April 15th of the prior year.
Do you guys recommend online tax services?
Yep, I have a couple of them at the end of the slides that we can look at. Let's see.
Some of them are nice in that they prepare your taxes by asking you questions. So it helps guide you through, and so you don't have to remember everything.
Right.
It's guiding you through. Like it'll say, did you work in more than one state? Yes. And if you pick the states, then it will say, oh yeah, you need, So
You're almost better
they've
off.
gotten a lot more helpful.
Right. There's a couple of free ones. So.
If your permanent residence is in a separate state, do you still have to pay any sort of state-related tax?
Depends upon the state, but yes. You have to file a return in both those states, most likely. So you have to look at your 2 states and see what they are. You have to see if they collect. If you have, your state may require you. I think, is it New Jersey that requires a W-4? It has a separate W-4.
Yes.
Yeah. So New Jersey requires a separate W-4 if you have an exemption, right? Or otherwise, I can never remember. Yeah, you have to fill out a W-4 if you're from New Jersey. Their state W-4, not the IRS W-4.
Yeah, there's a lot of states that have their own W-4. Some of them use the federal W-4, so you have to look at the state. Pennsylvania doesn't have a W-4 because we have flat tax, which is 1%.
Yeah.
So if you're a resident of a different state, but you're using a Pennsylvania mailing/permanent address because you've been in Pennsylvania, you also have to file taxes, along with Pennsylvania, also in the state you're a resident of, even if you don't have income from that state.
It depends upon the state. So you have to, again, these are questions I can't answer because I don't know your personal tax, information. But you should either go online and try to use one of the services or contact. There's free services out there too that you can call and ask for help with.
Okay.
For the most part, the answer is yes. When in doubt, file.
Online, you don't have to pay until you're ready to file. So you can kind of do all this stuff and walk through and be like, okay, you know what I need to know.
I know you got to work an extra 20 hours next week to pay for the taxes that you didn't remember to do. So, okay. And as Beth said, Pennsylvania uses a flat tax, so they don't have a separate W-4. Payday. So this is, okay, can I do this from here? I want to link to a pay slip at Penn. Who here is getting paid from Penn? Ooh. Okay, I gotta log in, right?
Yeah, because it doesn't work. You can click log in.
All right, I am. Wait. How come it's not letting me log in? Where's the thing?
Oh, I see.
I can't log in from here.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, crap.
Don't know.
Oh, wait, what's this? Nope.
No.
Okay.
Hold on.
Can you do it?
One sec. I don't know why it's not coming up.
There you are. Okay.
Magic.
Okay. So how to view your pay slip. All right, I'll do it.
Where is this?
This is, I gave you a link. It's under the tips, under Workday. It's under self-service Workday, reviewing your pay, or self-service, understand your pay slip. Now, I'm going to tell you, some of these self-service things they're a little confusing, but if you look at the Workday website, and on the left-hand side, it breaks it down by self-service. All the things that are self-service are things that you can look at and see, do they affect you or not? The W-2, your pay slip, some other information on the I can't remember what else is on there, but there's a lot of different things. So how to view your pay slip. Can I open this more? Or is it, I guess that's about it. So this is just kind of walking you through what to do, how to look at the pay slip itself. Let me go to the next page. I'm trying to. Page down. Oh, here we go. Oh, okay. Sorry, I went too far. So each of the areas will give you information about what you're doing, your name. The first part is showing you under A. I know it's kind of hard to see, but we'll give you the pay period, the time frame that you're being paid for, what the pay date is. I got to take off my glasses. What the pay date is, pay period, end date, a check number. It'll give you the gross pay, which is the pay that's given to you as your service, whether it's an hourly rate or, a monthly rate. So if you're getting $1,000 a month for a service, it'll show $1,000, which is the pay before deductions. And it'll break down between your current period being paid for and the year-to-date totals as well. And in that column, in that section, it'll show you the deductions, the pre-tax deductions. So those are the deductions that are taken before taxes are applied. And then it'll show you the employee taxes and post-tax deductions. So those are deductions that are taxable, but they're coming out of your regular pay. In the section that's marked C is basically earnings. So it'll show you the different types of earnings for you. In this particular case, it's showing excess life. So as an employee, anything over, you're given a life insurance policy. Part of your benefit is a life insurance policy that is for your total salary. If that money is over $50,000, there's a additional tax that's assessed for that additional amount over $50,000. So the regular monthly paid salary will show the month or the time frame. If it's weekly, you'll see it differently. I think, Beth, was there a thing in here on the students, I think, too? That'll break it down by weekly and monthly. I'm not sure. Under D is your employee taxes. Does anybody know what OASDI stands for? I want you all to go home, and I want you to ask your parents if they know what this is. I'm going to tell you because I bet you nobody knows. It's Social Security, but it means old age, disability, survivor, income, or insurance. So disability, old age, survivor, disability, insurance. Social Security. Why they make it so complicated, I don't know. But everybody calls and says, what's this OASDI stand for? But it's Social Security. So those are the amounts for your taxes, your Medicare taxes. So the Social Security rate is, I think we have it in here somewhere, it's 6.2% on your income, on your Social Security wages. We'll go through that when we look at the W-2. And the Medicare taxes is 1.45 on the total of your Medicare gross. Your PA with, what's that? The federal withholding is based on your W-4 information that you've input. Unless you didn't, then you're single and it's taken out the highest rate. The state tax, whatever state that may be applicable for you based upon when you onboarded and you put that information in the system for Workday. And then the city tax for Philadelphia. So as a resident, you have to withhold a higher rate. As a non-resident, it's a lower rate, but not much lower. It's like 5%, whatever it is, but not that much lower. They get you coming, they get you going. Then you have your pre-tax deductions. So your pre-tax deductions are considered shelters. So those are things like, as an employee, as a student, you probably wouldn't see this. But as an employee, it's your health, your benefit, your vision benefits. Those are considered shelters, and those are deducted before the taxes are taken. Or the taxes are calculated, I should say. And then, what's that slide? Because I can't see it. The employee taxes, the post-tax deduction. Some of it could be if you had supplemental insurance. Some employees have dependent care insurance or dependent care subsidies that come out, and so on. And then the information below is, I wish I could really see this because I can't. Sorry. Is employee benefits. It's actually the employee's portion of the benefits that have been deducted. What the heck am I doing? Let's page down. Come on. Why is this not doing? What am I doing it outside? Do it over here. What am I doing? Oh, I just don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, you can right here. So there's other things in here that probably as a student wouldn't pertain to you, but if you look at it, there's certain allowance, absence plans, your paid time off, your sick leave, those type of things, and et cetera, et cetera. So you could take a look at this if you have questions. Feel free to play around with it. And some of this is kind of outlined when you look at this online. So there's more information on there. There's also information for students when you look on here too. So you might want to just take a look at that. Let's go back to the presentation. Yeah. I got it. Just me. Okay. So now, understanding your W-2. We left a blank W-2 in front of you so you can kind of look at the boxes. And I'll walk through. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but I want to go through, and you'll see this, and we will post this if you want to look at how this is calculated on your for your tax on your W-2 statement. So in box 1 is your kind of gross compensation. It's all the money that you're paid for that is going to be taxable to you. So it's your compensation, it could be imputed income, it could be tips if you're working in the restaurant industry. Some of them allow for tips and are put on there. And this amount on here for when the taxes are withheld is reduced by the shelters. We talked about what the shelters were. So it's your health, your dental, your benefit shelters, and any deferred retirement that you have as an employee. So again, a lot of this is not right now going to be, it's not going to impact you, but somewhere in the future, or if you're working outside, or if you work in the summer and you're doing some other things, that some of this might pertain. So just to keep it in mind. The adjustments for federal gross, and you can follow along on the information is on the pages that follow W-2 on the PowerPoint presentation. So based on your W-4 withholding, your federal taxes are going to come out and be in box number 2. The Social Security, the OA, SDI wages are reduced by your shelters, so it's essentially your total income reduced by your shelters, but is not reduced by your retirement. So it's a little bit higher amount. And it includes any form of imputed income. So again, if we've paid as an employee, if something was paid on your behalf as part of your compensation, it is imputed income into that box. So the Social Security has a limit, and it was for 2019, the limit was $132,900. So if you reach the $132,900, no other Social Security is deducted at that time. For 2020, it's $137,700. So in box 4 is the Social Security taxes. So based upon that amount, whether it'll be the full amount reduced by your shelters, it's the 6.2% that's reported. So it'll never be more than, well, for 19, it'll never be more than $8,239.80, because that's the amount of the 6.2 times the 132.9. And every year it goes up. Every year the limit for Social Security goes up. The Medicare gross is in box 5, and that's the one that a lot of states look at as well, because it's usually the highest. It's reduced by shelters, not by retirement, and again includes any form of imputed income. But the Medicare tax is 1.45%. So when you hear FICA, this Federal Insurance Contributions Act is the total of 7.65. It's the combination of the OASDI, Social Security, and the Medicare. If you, as an individual, if you go over $200,000 in a year, there's an additional 0.9% that's taxed for you for Medicare on anything over $200,000. And again, the FICA is the Federal Insurance Contributions. So box 7, so social security tips. If you got tips, they're usually reported in there. Some of your employers, if you're working in a restaurant or whatever, they may not report your cash tips. Those still could be taxable to you, just so that you know. Box 8 are allocated tips. Again, if your employer decides that they're going to allocate a certain percentage, in the restaurant industry, if you get $100 a week, they may allocate 2% of that towards tips, just so that they're not getting in trouble for not reporting your tips that you receive. Box 9, now it no longer means anything. I guess the IRS just never got around to changing the W-2 for the past 25 years. So, no longer exists. No, I guess it ended in 2011. But it no longer exists. So you'll never see anything in box 9, and if you do, call your employer. It's wrong. Dependent care benefits are in box 10. Non-qualified plans, report anything that is deferred compensation plan from your employer, would be in 11, like a 457 pension plan, if you've heard of those. Anybody? No. And then box D is other forms of deferred compensation and other compensation that we're allowed as an employer to set up codes to say this is what it means. It's basically just outlining what you're getting as an employee. Okay, and all this is kind of confusing if you haven't really been to this point and getting all of the W-2 information or in understanding that you're getting these large salaries and the benefit plans that you're getting from an employer. But pretty soon you'll be out in what they call the real world, and getting an actual full paycheck applicable for benefits. So you should be aware of your rights, and you should be aware of how these things are being taxed and reported on your behalf as you move forward. So this is just something to keep up. I think part of it is things change every year, and you should be aware of that. The IRS changes tables, the IRS changes taxability, changes how they're viewing things, forms change, the W-4 changes, there's always a change. I will always have a job. Well, unless I swear too much, I guess. But, basically, just from that standpoint, you should be aware that what you may know today may not be the same thing for next year. So keep that in mind. Box 2. Box 3, 13 is, again, another checkbox. 16 is state grosses. So your grosses for your state. You may see your W-2, and you'll see 2 sections that are state. You'll get 2 basic duplicates of your W-2, but the one will have one state and one will have another state. So it's not like you combine the box 1 for all of those states that you report in, but you're looking at box 16 for your state gross. And the cafeteria, anybody here have a cafeteria plan? Cafeteria plan are your health benefits, your health, your welfare, your dental, your vision plan. And, I always think of cafeteria because you get to pick and choose what plans you have. Cafeteria plans. That's how I look at it. So it's your dental, your benefit, any health savings, the 457, any of the deferred income that has not vested, and includes, it's reduced by what's not vested. It includes any form of imputed income, but could include, if you vested in some of your retirement, would include in that as well. And the local grosses, depending upon the municipality, it'll be certain dollar amounts. Like for Philadelphia, you'll see the Philadelphia amount for non-resident. You may have a couple of different localities if you're in another state. You may be responsible outside as well in your home local. And the way that Pennsylvania works is they look at, if you're in Pennsylvania, they look at Pennsylvania where you work and where you live, and whatever percentage is higher is what you're taxed on. So if you're working in Philadelphia, you're going to get taxed in Philadelphia because we're the highest for the tax rate. Okay? So here's where kind of we outline a couple of different resources that you can go to help you with your taxes, to help with questions. The IRS website is not all that scary, and it does give you a lot of information. So if you want to look more at certain types of income, or you want to look at some of the boxes on the W-2, or you want to get some additional information, the IRS. IRS.gov is a great way to look at what's out there, and they give you some great explanations on what to look for. Some of it is in a little bit of IRS language, but there are resources that will help you decipher some of it as well. The Volunteer Assistance Program, you can call or log on to their website to get some additional information and help if you need it. And for the city of Philadelphia, they have some local free tax preparers. The one thing that I probably should have mentioned up front is you should talk to your parents about how they're filing their returns and whether or not you're considered a dependent for them. It may change how you're reporting. So keep that in mind. Any questions? Anything else that I may not be able to answer, but I can... You can ask anything at all. Yes.
So let's say, this is like an idealized example, but let's say you're on full aid from university because your parents can't pay to go here. This isn't me. This is I just know people.
Somebody I know. Yeah. Okay. There's this guy.
I was thinking about some of my friends, but anyway, they're on full aid, and so they're on full aid because their parents can't give up any money, and they don't have any money themselves because they're students. And so housing's $10,600 if you live on campus in the cheap room, and cheap, and the meal plan is $5,500. Mm-hmm. So you said it was 10% for stuff under $1,900 or $19,000. Mm-hmm. So that's $16,000-ish, or 16.
No, 1,900.
I don't know. Yeah, 16, whatever. So they have to pay 10% on that.
It depends upon how the aid is set up. Is it full aid? And I don't know the answer from the aid question. So, John, I don't know if you do, but it depends upon the type of aid that you're getting. That might not be taxable to you at all. It could be a loan, could be tax-free loan.
For schooling, you wouldn't get taxed on the stuff that pay for expenses, scholarship-wise. Since it's need-based scholarship, does that count as the same type of scholarship?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay.
It depends upon what it's for. I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. I think the need-based information is basically you're getting it because you can afford it and you can't afford the tax. So it wouldn't be certain income, certain aid is not taxable and certain aid is, so that you're paying for the taxes for the non-qualified use of the money, but some of them I'm going to venture to guess are not. So, again, pull the information, talks to a tax provider that understands financial aid.
So I just wanted to clarify what you had said about travel reimbursements before. If it's like through your work through the university, then you don't have to pay taxes.
If the reason you're going is because the university asked you in your capacity as an employee, then it's not taxable.
Okay.
It's reimbursable to you based on expenses, and you can't go out to like lavish meals and drink a lot, and we don't reimburse for alcohol. Damn it. And that's two. Don't reimburse for alcohol, and you have to follow the accountable plan rules and the travel rules outlined by our policies. So every employer could be different. The level of dollars that are associated with expenses that you could, rack up for whatever the travel is for.
And then continuing off of that, if it's like some outside institution, for example, which is like giving a meal stipend for participating in like whatever.
That could be taxable.
That could
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be. Remember, the word stipend is taxable unless you can prove that it shouldn't be.
Even if it's meant for like reimbursement of meals.
It depends upon what capacity you're getting the reimbursement for. So if it's just to say, hey, I want to pay for your meals, but you're not an employee, I want to play as a student, I'm going to cover your food, that's going to end up being taxable to you.
Are there any specific deductions that students are typically qualified for?
You would have to look at what you personally are qualified to deduct from a student. There's certain earned income kind of things that you can get. There's earned income credits. There's some deductions for students. You'd have to look that up with your tax advisor or with your parents to see what would be attributed to you. Anything else? Totally boring? Okay. Gave you enough information to be dangerous? What do you think? What do you think? Could we have done better in presenting and whatever? Get somebody better looking that didn't, fail obesity training? Or no? Yes? Good? Good to go? What did I do? Oh. Any questions? Anything at all? Hey guys, thanks. Good luck. What?
If you have feedback, there's a form you can use, either the
Feedback.
QR codes.
Yeah.
There also should have been a really small sheet right in front of you when
Yeah, you
sat
could do
down.
that. Sorry,
The
I
evaluation
missed
is
that.
there as well.
Yeah.
And we'll share the presentation over email. I know that there was a lot of small text and some links to other resources, so you'll get that
If you signed it.
if you signed it.
Yeah. We'll try to put it on the website too, right? We'll put it on the website, okay. If you see me on campus, please don't throw eggs.
This is my job. Thank you.
Hey guys, have a good night.
Thank you.